You don't know the power of the dark side. Join me as we build stuff today. And no, I am not your father. All right. Hey, everybody. James here with Laughing Dragon Foundries. Glad you could join us. Hope you can hear what I'm saying. And hope our stream strength is good. It's looking good. You can probably tell there's something a little bit different about my getup here today. It's a little loose, actually. Gotta tighten it up. So I know it's been a while since we've been out here, and it's been pretty busy summer. And as you all know, we're still in the midst of this pandemic and all of the challenges that brings to the table. But yeah, other than that, we're doing good here. Been building a lot of stuff, just been really kind of, like I said, kind of busy. Went to stream a couple of times and just life got in the way. And of course this, as you all know, is not my full-time gig. So, got to feed the big dogs first, as they say. In any event, a little bit of, let me go ahead and take this off for you. A little information on what this is. As some of you know, oh, you know what? I forgot. We got to do our usual share stuff. I'll pick up with this after we get shared out to our groups, what we're doing here, so everybody that wants to is able to join us. So just give me a second here. So we're gonna, when we get rolling here, we're gonna bring you up to speed on, excuse me, on what we've been doing, and then of course what we're going to do today. So, give me 1 second. This always takes a moment. Alright, there's the message. Again, bear with. I will. I'm going to make sure we get this out to everybody. Everybody who's anybody. And even those who wouldn't consider themselves anybody. Sorry, I'm just trying to fill up the time here. Anyway, hopefully everyone is having a good summer. Has been having a good summer. Like I said, we've been pretty busy here, so lots to tell you. But as soon as I get the share protocols taken care of here. Mr. Lane, how are you doing today? For those of you who don't know Mr. Adam Lane, he runs Dark Creations ATX, the source for cool Halloween-oriented garb, costumes, and actually somebody that we work with on an ongoing basis. Jason, I will be working on your tacit today, just an FYI. But he's also recently been creating costumes and props for movies. Mr. Adam Lane of Dark Creations ATX. Hold on here. Facebook is doing its usual slow thing. Let me know. It's like I got a little bit of lag here, so let me know if I'm looking like a martial arts movie of years ago. We're happy to be on board. Just need to get a little bit better at delivering things on time, as I was telling everyone here before you came on. on the. This isn't my full-time gig, at least not yet. And as a result, life and seems like everything else gets in the way. I've tried to stream here a couple of times over the past month or so, and it just never seemed to work out. But I said we're going to get out there and do it today. Actually, I was planning to do it yesterday, but I said today, and I actually announced it. I'm like, all right, I announced it. Now we got to do it. So maybe that's the secret. I just got to make an announcement, and then I can't weasel my way out of it. Mr. Jordan, yes, and I was thinking about you. The other day too. Let's, if you're around afterwards, let's have a little conversation about what we were talking about before, because I've got some options for you that might prove to be a little more interesting for you in your quest for your cosplay accessory that we were discussing. Almost done with the shares here. This list gets longer and longer, which isn't a bad thing, but unfortunately there's no way to automate this or to do it ahead of time. I just gotta stiff my way through it here. Yeah, and as I've always said before, if you guys know somebody that is in a different group, or that would benefit from this, or just enjoy hanging out, then by all means, feel free to share. Let them know we're out here. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Star Wars, obviously Iron Man, and we're going to be just building some stuff, different disciplines. You guys are familiar with the ribbing. We got a little bit of this. We got to get ready for some standing projects. Oh gosh. All right, I'm going to do two more. There's two groups specifically that I want to get this out to. I'll do them, and then we'll get down to business here. There's one of them. Come on, Facebook. You can do it. There it is. There's my other group. Okay, so I think that's it. And even if it isn't, it's going to have to be it for now. Excuse me. Okay, so, and because most of you weren't here when I did this, I'll go ahead and do it again. I'm going to put on my Darth Vader glasses. Actually, broadcast. Let's see, if you use the events, you can make it so it's a notification so people can come join in your broadcast. Yeah, Steve, that does work. But what I'm doing is I'm a member of about 50 different groups that at one point or another have expressed interest in having us announce our live streams. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing group sharing, and unfortunately there's no real way that I've found, at least at this point, to automate that. So we have, in honor of the current pandemic crisis, a way to dress up your boring cloth face masks. Now this isn't any kind of a mechanic to stop anything, but it definitely makes you look cool when you're out in public. Some people are a little intimidated by it. Other people find it amusing. It's definitely a conversation starter. And yes, a shameless personal plug here. We do have an Etsy store, and these are available in it. So if you're interested, you can either go to the Laughing Dragon Foundries page, and you can link directly to the Etsy store from there, or just let me know, and I will direct you there personally. Or if anybody else knows, they can throw the link in chat. So, let's get down to business of making stuff. Anyway, this is a 3D print, excuse me, of my own design. This actually just slips off here, and then you unbuckle. It's got two buckles, but once you get the top buckle adjusted, you don't have to unbuckle that. It's pretty cool. It's my own design. printed on my bank of printers here. We're printing it. We're 3D. Actually, if you head out to the to our Etsy store, we're doing a lot of other COVID-related things. Again, for decoration, as well as for use, for your own safety. And as a result, our 3D printing has kind of taken off again. You don't have to buy anything, but just if you want to head out and check out the store and see what we're doing out there. Some stuff that I have designed, some other designs that were borrowed, some improvements on some existing designs. And again, like I said, this is actually one of a series that we're going to be releasing here. We've got some other they're called half face masks that are going to be coming online here within the next week. A huge assortment of Mortal Kombat masks of different styles and presentations. We've been getting requests and questions about that type of stuff, so that's why we're offering it, because everybody's getting tired of the plain cloth look. So again, recommended to wear a cloth mask under this. I'm actually going to retrofit glue some cloth on the inside of the mask here. Something dark colored, obviously black, so it's all black in front. But I'll probably still wear a cloth mask underneath it for that double bit of protection. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, we actually, I've got a tacit that we're building for Mr. Lane. I'm actually going to be working on that off camera because there's a little bit involved to that. But I've got to do a speed build. We're going to do a speed build today of a cod and ab piece. Now you've seen me build this before, but I'm going to do a speed build because I built one and it actually was a little bit small, so we need to make it a little bit bigger. And I figured it would be a good thing to let you see the process from front to finish, tracing the templates, cutting the foam, heat sealing the foam, although I think the foam is already heat sealed. We'll know when we pull it out. There's my stack of foam there. And yeah, so let's see how fast we can build this baby. All right. And actually, I think before we do that, I need some more ribbing. So let's do a quick cast, quick setup for another set of ribbing here. I'm going to go ahead and keep in mind this is an open venue. You got questions, comments. We're streaming out to YouTube and Twitch at the same time. I have an application that lets me see all the comments or questions from all three channels. So wherever you're at, feel free to chime in and be part of the discussion here. All right, let's change quick. Kaboom. All right, here we are on the desktop. I'm gonna grab a little sip of my coffee here. And like I said before, today we're going to be doing a lot of work with the silicone and with the foam. But if you have a question about 3D printing, by all means, I've been 3D printing for 4 years now, and been 3D modeling for 20. So yeah, I've actually taken some of the 3D models. We had a commission for a Tenya Ida from the No Hero Boku Academia. 52120. Oh, I would definitely. Okay, so if you look, sorry, Ellie, if you want to order the mask, let me show you the difference. I actually happen to have both here. The main difference, sorry, let me jump back to the front camera. The main difference in these are the width, okay? So the child, and I also say for the ladies, my wife, this fits her perfectly. So the child size, the lady size, and the adult size, the only difference, I got a big head. All right, no getting around that fact. And I initially did this, obviously, based on my measurements. It turned out a little bit small, so I said, you know what, this will be perfect for people with a lesser head than myself. The only difference is, what I would do is cheekbone to cheekbone, right here, measure the width of your face. All right, this will accommodate up to about a 5 1/4 to a 5.5 inch wide face. You can see it almost fits me, all right, but it's a little tight on the nose. So what I would do, if you're between a 5 1/4 and a 6 1/4, this will fit and feel a heck of a lot better. Okay, so if you're 5'2", 120, I would probably say that the smaller size would fit you better. So, but yes, that was a good thing to point out. Be absolutely certain that you get the right size, because once we ship these out, just due to the whole health situation, unfortunately we can't take them back unless it arrives broken or something, and then of course we can claim insurance and all that. Ali, so hopefully that answered your question. Again, the width is the main thing. So 5 1/4. If you're over 5 1/4 here, anywhere between that 5 1/4, and honestly, even if you got the bigger one, it's just gonna be roomier, and you'll actually have more room for a cloth mask underneath as well. So use your best judgment. All right, hopefully that's helpful. Let's jump back down to the table here. I'm gonna peel this off real quick. All right. And I've got a library of royalty-free music. I've been thinking about toying with the idea of putting together a little playlist so we can have some music going in the background. What do you guys think of that? Would that be a nice ad? So when I'm doing stuff like this and I'm not talking, we kind of fill the airspace up a little bit. Or do you like the silence? You let me know. You want a playlist? I'll put together an assorted playlist. And there's no words to the music. It's just kind of mood music. I'm not talking mood like trance or stuff like that. I mean, unless you guys like that. But obviously it'll be we'll do a bit of a mix. Some rock, more instrumental stuff. That's what I should say. Not mood music, just instrumental stuff like rock, a little bit of country rock, a little bit of acoustic stuff. I mean, we'll try to appeal to everybody. Of course, we can't make everybody happy, but if you have a suggestion, let me know. Right. Okay. There is our ribbing. This is for the fingers. For those of you who don't know, for the inside of the fingers, like that. When you're building your gauntlets and you want that ribbed look between the finger joints, I should hold it up to the proper camera. We do it in all colors: silver, blue, black, obviously red. Did a flesh tone once by accident. That was kind of weird. Needless to say, I tried to give it away to somebody and they're like, yeah, I don't need it. I'm like, all right, yeah, it's kind of weird. All right. Put that aside. We're going to do another quick run at that. So let me get what we need to do so. There's our colorant. Takes a little bit of red and just a dab of black to make our burgundy that we like. I realize my towels are over here. Give me 1 sec. I'll grab those. All right. Yeah, no, Steve, that's why I said royalty-free. I've got an entire library. I actually subscribe for video editing purposes. It's a royalty-free library of music. And, of course, if Facebook mutes me, I'll just reach out and inform them of the facts, and hopefully that'll make them aware. But we'll see. If they mute us, then I guess we'll go back to just me jibber-jabbering and filling up the airwaves. Metallica. No, unfortunately, I think that would get me shut down, because I think Lars Ulrich is pretty adamant about Metallica getting paid for everything they do. Let's see. What do I need? I need my spreader. By the way, Stephen, I have not yet How do you do the video and video? Is there an app for that? How do you... Marcos, good question, man. I'm actually using an application called OBS, which is open source broadcast software. It's free. You can download it. Just do a quick Google search, OBS. That's OBS. Mr. Mendez, we are making, and then I stream that through an online service called Restream at restream.io. That allows me to, depending on my subscription, stream out to multiple platforms at once. Right now we're streaming to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. As other platforms come available and it makes sense, we'll head out there too. Let's see, do we have enough here? Mr. Mendez, we're making ribbing for the gauntlets. Sorry, let me pull this down here for reference. We just took a sheet off the mold. You know, let me change cameras here real quick. Probably. All right. So it's the ribbing that goes between the finger sections, and usually just on the inside, because the back of your fingers are covered by the finger sections themselves. But this is the ribbing that goes on the inside of the fingers. So when you open your hand, you see the ribbing in between the finger sections. All right. Back to the table. I have more bulk dragon skin 20. You know what? Let's go ahead and use 30 instead. I have a lot more of that. I don't feel like replenishing my jars right now. This just takes a little longer to cure. Basically the same stuff. Oh, let me close. Okay, there we go. Now we're set. I'm going to peel the old, even though we're doing red again. Peel all the old stuff off the mold. Looks like cream. Yeah, it does, actually. That's funny. All right. All right, I got somebody whispering me if I could post the link to my Etsy store. All right, hold on here. Sorry. I think it's Shop MD Foundry. Okay, that should get you there. That should get you to my Etsy store. All right. So we're going to mark our cups. And from doing this a number of times, I happen to know that we need to maybe just a little bit above half on the volume of each cup. Stephen, by the way, Mr. Derment, I have not looked at the links that you sent me for the Star Wars helmets, the Rebel helmet, but I will be checking those out probably later today. I will get back to you. All right, so I used two cups. It's 2 parts by volume, not by weight, which makes it simple. And then our final cup is to mix it all together. All right, 2 ends of the stick. You don't want to contaminate either product with the other, so I just used opposite ends of a dowel here. This is the link. Don't follow you, Steve. This is the link to my store, to my Etsy shop. Yeah, should be. I don't know, click on it. Tell me if it takes you to Laughing Dragon. Hey, Steve, if we don't like what we see, then heck, we'll model our own. All right. Here we go, part 1. Part 1. Take it right up to the line. I've never had a dragon skin casting fail. And I'm saying this because you want to be really exact as you possibly can with your ingredients. Personally, I've never had a casting. Got it. I've never had a casting fail, but I'm also pretty... the only thing that I've ever had fail was a casting of resin. I'm not sure what happened. I think I just got a bad batch. All right, flipping the stick around now, we'll go ahead and mix this up and then pour it into our other cup. You want to mix it really good. That you do want to do. All right. Silicone flows kind of slowly, so you want to just kind of ease it in there. And then when you're getting close, cut it off and let gravity do its thing to see if you get enough. And it looks like we need just a dab more. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Scrape off the excess here, wipe it off with our stick, and now we're going to use the same stick to grab our colorant. And typically, I mix the colorant into one A or B first, and then combine it in the final mix, but that's usually when things take a little bit, when things cure quickly. This dragon skin, this takes at least 8 hours to cure. The 20 will cure in 4 hours, so we have plenty of time to get the colorant in there and get it onto our molds. So I'm just going to go ahead and put our 2 parts in this 1 cup and mix it all up, and then we'll add the colorant. It's a little less messy because this colorant is concentrated, and it will stain and get all over everything very quickly. I've ruined a lot of clothes with this colorant. Yeah, it doesn't wash out either, so if you use this stuff, be careful. Or if you like that I work in a paint shop look, then by all means, be messy. Recently tried resin casting a flat token coin. The resin didn't cure correctly. I guess it came out gummy plywood. Okay, one of them we managed to sort of. Yeah, so that happened to me once, and I guess I started telling you guys about this, but I didn't finish the story. So that happened to me once, and I have no idea what happened. I do gauntlets, and the Iron Man gauntlets. For those of you who are new here, this is an example of a gauntlet half out of the mold. It's my own sculpt on my hand. So anyway, did a casting of these like 3 or 4 years back, and the same thing happened. The resin just for some reason didn't cure. So I thought maybe I got a bad batch of resin or something. So I took rubbing alcohol, cleaned the mold out. I mean, it was literally, like you said, after like 2 days, it was still wet in the bottom of the mold. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of unacceptable. So we cleaned the molds out with the rubbing alcohol, which is, I don't know if you know that or not, it's a great way to clean resin out of a mold, or just clean molds in general. And then you want to use something like this to it's a release. Hold on, where is it? It's over here somewhere. A mold release. You want to use this because it does 2 things. Oh, there's a spray, and then there's a liquid. Cool. This is it's called Ease Release. Now this is the spray. I use this in my rotocast molds, but then I also have it in a can that you can pour it. And this does 2 things. It preserves your molds because it kind of lubricates the mold itself, the surface of the mold, as well as obviously makes it easy to pull the products out when your casting is finished, which again will extend the life of your mold. So I highly recommend that you use this stuff. Not on this, on resin molds. But yeah, there's no explaining it. I mean, like I said, in all of the castings I've done in like 4 or 5 years, I only had 1 failure, and it was that one, and it was epic. But yeah, and then I'm like, well, maybe the batch of resin is bad or something, and I did another casting after that, and it was fine. So I must have just gotten the ratio wrong. All right, so this is Silk Pig. This is silicone pigment. I'm just going to mix this up here, make sure it's all evenly distributed, and then literally just this much on our stick, right, to color this silicone here. Now it's going to, just by itself, this red is pretty vibrant, which for any of you that have built an Iron Man suit know it's not a true Iron Man color. I mean, it is beyond fire engine red. I mean, this is, I don't even know how you describe this red. And on camera, I'm sure it's not as vibrant as it is in person. So what I like to do is take black and just do a dot of black. And I'm serious, anything more than a dot and it will get very brick red, which is might work with the Mark III suit, but definitely not the Mark IV and beyond. So I'm going to go ahead and use the opposite end of my stick, give this a stir, and we are going to clean this stick off because we're not even going to use everything that's on the stick. Okay, seriously, just half of the end of this stick. I'll dip it in here, and then I'm going to wipe the rest off. And you watch this red transform into a burgundy with just that little bit of black. Like I said, this stuff is powerful stuff. All right. See that? That's almost too much black. Now it'll mix down. We've got a lot of silicone in here. Yeah, actually pepper red. That would be a good comparison. But it's even more vibrant than peppers that you see in the grocery store. All right, see now we got a nice burgundy now. And it's funny, again, it doesn't look that dark here in real life, although the camera's making it look like it's a little darker than it is. It'll lighten out once we spread it. It'll lighten up once we spread it out a little bit. So let me just finish mixing this. You want to make sure when you're mixing colors too like this that you mix it really, really good, because if you get any traces of black in there that's not mixed, it'll make a stripe across your ribbing, and we don't want that. Okay, so I think we got a pretty good mix here. I don't see any streaks in it. You can't see it on camera, but it's literally because of the static. I've got silicone like trying to jump off of this cup now. All right, onto our mold. Give this a final wipe. Looks like we got a little colorant on there. We don't want any red streaks either, so let's tell you what. Grab my cloth here and wipe this down. Okay, here we go, half and half. There's a little bit of air bubbles in it, but we're going to squeeze those out here in a second with our spreader. Okay. All right, that looks to be about 50-50. One last wipe on the stick here. And then we move on to our spreader. Make sure that's clean. Nothing on it from our last venture out. Now we just flatten her across our mold. Don't make it too thin. If you start seeing the ridges of your mold or the details of your mold coming through, then you might be a little too thin. So you just want to pull some more resin. Pull it from the center out to the edges. Always the best way. Once this starts creeping over the edge of the mold, it's kind of hard to get it back up on the mold, so that's why I always work from the center. I'm really good at frosting a cake too, in case anybody's wondering. Although frosting a cake with silicone usually doesn't wind up with a very good tasting cake. I'm just saying. Looks good, doesn't taste good. And it bounces, which is always kind of neat. Alright, there's that one. Nothing fancy about my spreader here either. It's just a piece of plastic from a cat litter jug that I cut and rounded the corners. Nice and flexible and does the job. Nothing fancy. Alright, there we go. Fortunately, it's self-leveling, so you don't have to get it perfectly level. Gravity will take care of that, but you do want to try and make sure that you get it as even as possible across your entire mold. And, as you can see, we got pretty close on the color, so it will definitely match our other sheets. Any questions about the ribbing or the process to get to it? These molds are not 3D printed. These are actually made out of clay and a piece of tubing that I found at Home Depot. I flattened the clay out and then rolled the tubing across it to get the grooves in it. And it took a few times to get them at the depth that I wanted, but then obviously when I got the depth that I wanted, this is what we wound up with. So that's why they're not perfectly square too. They're just literally blobs of epoxy sculpt from Smooth On, laid out, rolled out into a nice flat piece. I guess I could have cut them nice, but who cares? Doesn't have to be that perfect. All right, so we'll set these aside. If it was a baking show, I'd put them in the oven at 350 for a half hour. I don't think that would help this. This takes time. So 8 hours, and this will be cured up and ready to go. We'll set these back here, out of the way, and preferably somewhere where it's nice and level, because obviously gravity can be your friend and your enemy. If you set the stuff on its side, then it's going to run downhill. Okay, so let's jump back here. Now, we could actually put all this stuff aside. We don't need this. Yeah, you know what? Let's just get straight to work on our cod piece. I'm going to grab the foam and the templates. If you want to grab a drink, this would be the time to do so. Or maybe you can come up with better ways to organize my shop and let me know. Actually, it's usually pretty organized, but when you get busy, the last thing on your mind is making sure everything looks nice and neat. Okay, there's the templates that we'll need for our cod. And we'll grab our foam. Probably going to need at least a couple, 3 pieces. Tell you what, we'll start with these. Alright, jump back down to our table. First thing we need to do is we need to heat treat this. I do have some pieces that are already heat treated, but heat treating is a necessary part of the process. I always like, when we're doing these public builds, to make sure that as much as possible we can show those who haven't seen it before all of the steps necessary. So we've got our heat gun here. We do have a cordless heat gun, but I like this one here because it gets up to speed, or a little bit power a little bit quicker, and it gets hotter, which means we can do it in a shorter amount of time. We're going to max this out 1250 degrees, and we are just going to go over our foam. We'll turn it here so you can see it, work on this side, and you'll see the foam kind of change and become a little bit more shiny. That'll let you know that you're applying the right amount of heat. Now, you apply too much heat and this foam will get scorched. It'll scorch and melt on you. You don't want that. You see how the surface changes? Alright, because basically what you're doing is you're closing up the pores of the foam, which makes it shiny. So you look for that shiny, sparkly look. Keep your heat gun moving. And seal up the surface of our foam. The reason we heat seal the surface mainly is for painting. Foam is literally like a sponge when it comes to paint, and if you don't heat seal these surfaces, the paint will have a tendency to soak in, and it will take a lot more to paint it, is the first thing. And by heat sealing, you also, because the surface is tighter and the paint doesn't soak in, it makes a better looking surface as well, a smoother surface than if you didn't heat treat it in the first place. Alright, and I believe these two smaller pieces are already sealed. Yeah. We'll give them another one here real quick. Yeah, if you keep your heat gun moving like this, it's hard to burn or scorch the foam. Alright, let that cool down. We're going to need some glue, of course. And we'll start with these smaller pieces here. And where is my trusty pen? I could use a marker, but I like the pen better. I think it's over here. Alright. Found my trusty pen. We have a knife, our sharpener. Abs will come next. We'll do those later. Set those aside for now. Alright. So we have to make a left and right side on this cod. So we're going to lay all the pieces in one direction, and we'll trace them. Trace them out in one direction and then flip them over, the ones that we need to. Alright, now this will be done on a piece of 6mm foam, so we'll put that aside. Not everything needs to be doubled, but the pieces that do need to be doubled, again, I know we need a bigger piece for that. Always trying to conserve space as much as possible, whenever possible. Alright, and this is a larger piece as well, so we'll do that on our next piece of foam. Now I've got a key here of different markings that signify the different types of cuts. Actually, you know what? This gets a longer. This needs an extension. Let's move this over here. That's not going to fit there. It'll fit out here, though, if I'm not mistaken. So I have different markings on these pieces that indicate the type of cuts that we need to make. One of the keys in building a lot of foam projects is making sure that you cut the pieces at the proper angle, so when you glue them together, they create the angle of the joint that you want them to. So here we're going to do an extreme inward cut, and this will be a flat cut. This here is an extreme inward cut. Put that aside. Do I have room? Does he have room? Yes, he does, just barely. Excellent. Okay. Okay, so this will get an extreme cut that way, and then this way. Two different directions. We don't need to duplicate, we do need to duplicate this. We'll set that aside. Actually, I think I can move this piece over here. I know I'm going to need two of these, so let's go ahead and mark another one. One for either side. And then that one is done. We'll put him over here. That is a centerpiece. We won't need more than one of those. Now this piece gets a little more complicated when it comes to the cutting. Again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, but when we start gluing it together, it'll make all the sense in the world. So we've got extreme cut here that turns into a moderate angle cut. So as we bring our knife around, we'll actually stand it up and make it less extreme, and then as we come around the corner, we're going to stand the knife up perpendicular and make it a flat cut. Again, right now it doesn't make a lot of sense, but when we glue it together, everything will come together at the proper angle at the right time and create the look that we're looking for. Alright, so here we start flat, we go to a moderate outcut to an extreme outcut, all the way down, and then extreme on the ends, and then we've got a slit here that goes from here to here that we'll actually cut. We'll cut and then cut a section out so it'll double back on itself slightly and make an indent. Pretty complicated piece. Alright, so let's see, that was this. Now we need to flip this over. Do we have enough room? Can we do it? No, we can't. Alright, we'll save that for our next piece. This piece here is just all flat cuts. That's the reason there's no markings on it whatsoever. We need two of these, and we don't have room on here for that one either. So let's put this piece aside for the moment. Bring out our other piece. So I flip this one over, and let me double check my orientation here. Yes, we want to flip this here, so we can do this like so. And this one here. And I think these are probably going to have to come out of the larger sheet of foam, which is a-okay. Alright, so once again, our super weird piece here. I usually use ballpoint pens to trace my patterns on the foam. Occasionally you'll see me shake it out, because whatever it is that clogs the tip, whether it's just the foam itself, has to be something to do with the foam. The ballpoint pen will stop working. When that happens, I just shake it out or give it a tap. And it works again, at least for a little while. Alright. I don't know, it's probably something ultra scientific, like static electricity builds up and creates a block that the ink can't descend. I don't know, or the ball stops turning. Who knows? Could do a Bob Ross here and just beat the devil out of it. There we go. Hey, that actually worked. Just beat the devil out of it. Just beat it like it owes you money. Yeah, actually that works beautifully. All right. You tell your friends what happens when you don't work. Alright, so that one is straight. We're going to do this one straight, although when I cut it, I'm actually going to cut it at a little bit of an angle, because this one comes around, and when this, now let me show you. Let me go ahead and finish marking it. Yep. Okay, so when you cut this, it's flat. When you go to glue it together and you pull it around, it kind of makes a cone shape a little bit. All right, so what you need to do is you need to create your angles in it when you cut it, so that when it comes into this shape here, that it creates a flat surface to then join it to the circular piece. So what I'll do is I'll actually create a little bit of a moderate mountain cut on the inside. So just something very moderate. Okay, all right. That's that. All right, we'll stick this behind us and bring out a larger piece here now so we can cut our other two pieces that we need to finish this cod. Again, a very odd shaped piece, but when we glue it all together, it makes a whole lot of sense. Okay. I'm going to continue beating the devil out of it there. Okay, so we want moderate cut here to the inside, and everything else is flat. So we're good there. Let's flip this over, because we will need two of them. Alright, that's a good alignment there. I usually use, if you need to, just to make sure that things don't move on you, I'll place something heavy on the longer, part of my template. Like these longer templates have a tendency to flex and move around on you. So if you just place something over it like that, again, doesn't need to be anything fancy. Just needs to do the job. Hey, yes, Rolando, we're building a COD. I was just thinking, I haven't heard from Rolando yet. Good to see you, man. Thanks for showing up. We're doing a speed build. Whoop, and that moved just like we didn't want it to. So we'll move our weight over here. All right, so there's that. Moderate valleys. And that piece is done. Now the last piece is the center piece that holds it all together. Try to find the most efficient place to put this, and that's going to be it right there. Can't go vertical. All right, we'll grab our weight here again. All right, everything is pretty much a flat vertical cut except the front. And that is all the pieces that we need for our COD. So, I'm going to have me a little sip of coffee here. If y'all are drinking your coffee, I advise you do the same. Because now, we get to cut all the pieces out. Make sure your knife is nice and sharp. I'm just going to cut this out to get rid of the excess. And just as an FYI, someone was asking the other day about the different types of foam, and is there a difference when it comes to, you know, the foams that you find at Sears or Menards or Home Harbor Freight? And honestly, yeah, there is a difference between these foams and the premium foams. Okay, don't get me wrong. I use premium foams. I've got a stack of them. You know, different manufacturers: SKS, TNT, Evil Ted. We use all kinds of different foam. Ya Han. But there is nothing wrong with these foams. Yes, there is a texture on the back. That is really the main thing. That if that bothers you, then the premium foams are probably a better route to go. But by no means, I mean, I still build suits out of this, not because I have to, but because I choose to. This foam is actually not as dense as some of the premium foams, and when it comes to wearability, actually I find that this foam, in a lot of cases, is a lot more comfortable. So it comes down to personal preference, but there's absolutely nothing wrong. And I think what bothered me was the post was kind of revolving around the fact that if you didn't use the premium foams, you were kind of a substandard builder. Guys, I've been building these things for, what is it now, 7 or 8 years? I still use the Harbor Freight foam in a lot of applications, and Hobby Lobby and Michaels and, you know, wherever else I can get it. You're not a substandard builder. So if anybody tells you that, tell them to pack sand. In a nice way, of course. All right, if you don't have one, I highly suggest that you get one. These things are indispensable. It is a blade sharpener. You can replace these blades as they dull, but you can get a lot more mileage if you use one of these sharpeners. It's got a coarse and a fine. I'll hit it on both sides. 4 or 5 draws across the coarse, and then across the fine, and we can get more life out of this blade. Now there will reach a point where the blade, you try to sharpen it and it just won't hold an edge. Then it's time to replace the blade. And I think we're actually there now, yeah. Because it'll start to drag on you. So that's when you put it aside and replace it. But with a sharpener, you can at least get a little bit more life out of it, which, of course, reduces your costs. Keeps those costs down, so you can build more stuff with the same dollars. See? That's a nice... It's nice. What about the thickness? I'm going to use the very thick foam for the chest and the not so thick for all the body. You know what? I build an entire Mark IV out of this foam, and now that's one thing that I was going to mention earlier that I didn't say, is that your premium foams will have a tendency to be more controlled in terms of their thickness, so you know what you're going to get. But this is 10 mil. Okay, so this is a 10 millimeter foam. I use this for the entire suit, the main, the legs, the biceps, the forearms, the chest, the back, and then when it gets to like the neck piece, I'll use a 6 mil. Let's see, 6 mil for the neck, for the hand plates on the back of the gauntlets, although sometimes I use 10 mil for that as well. And the ankle plates that go in the front of... Actually, hold on, let me grab a couple pieces here and show you. I couldn't find the ankle plates or the hand plates, but I've got other stuff here. Here, let me jump cameras real quick, which will be... So, this is a shoulder bell made out of all 10 mil. Okay. Let's see, put that over here. And then, so that's 10 mil. This is the neck cowl. This is made out of 6 mil foam. Okay, again, this is for the Mark IV. I don't know why I said it that way. The Mark IV. Here is our calf shin piece. Again, 10 mil. I find that 10 mil holds up better over time. I actually have a Mark IV, a personal suit, that is, oh gosh, what is it now? At least 3 years old. And I've probably worn it out, I don't know, at least 15 or 20 times. And it's, again, it's all 10 mil Harbor Freight foam. You can see the texture. See? And still looks great. I mean, it's looking worn, obviously, around the edges in various places. But no, I prefer 10 mil just for the, again, for the strength. And it's rigid enough where, you know, where it holds its shape really well. And stands up over time. This is the chest plate, Mark IV chest, and back. And then the piece that we're building today, our cod and ab assembly, which I lovingly refer to as the iron diaper. Drives my wife crazy. Why do you call it the iron diaper? I'm like, I don't know. Just said it one day and it stuck, and there you go. So yeah, this is what we're building today. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I've known some people that build the entire suit out of like 6 millimeter foam, and I never really have. Hold on, I'm getting a message here. All right, Steve, if you're still watching, I just answered your question in chat about the STLs. can definitely help you out with that. But let's talk. I'll tell you what, let's talk after the broadcast is over. Okay? All right. Oops. Anyway, I've seen people that build their the bodies of their suits out of 6mm foam, and I know what kind of stress a suit undergoes when you're wearing it out. And personally, I don't think a 6mm foam suit, unless you reinforced it with something, would hold up well enough. Like I said, I've got a Mark IV that still looks great, and I do not regular appearances in, but total number of appearances over the past 3 years, I've probably done at least, I've been out in that suit at least 20 times. And, like I said, if you get closer, you can start seeing that it's showing its age. But from 10 feet or more away, it still looks awesome. It still looks awesome. At least that's what they tell me. I'm not bragging here. I'm just telling you what I've heard. Now, another route that you could take is to do a mix. Oh, no worries. Another route that you could take, and I haven't had the chance, just because between my day job and projects, I've been a little squeezed on time, so I haven't had the chance to actually try it yet, but I've got a product here. Let me show you. That's not it. Here it is. Epsilon, is this it? Yeah. Okay, let's jump cameras. This stuff. All right, this is called Epsilon Pro. All right, I actually saw a piece at my Smooth-On supplier. They had actually, I think somebody had made a bracer, like a wrist bracer, and they'd coated it with this stuff, and it was pretty dang cool. It was rigid, and of course it had a nice smooth surface that they then painted. But it was underneath. I want to say they did it in 10mm foam, but then they coated it with this stuff, and it was kind of like, if you think of like an M&M. All right, it's got the soft, chocolate center, but a hard candy shell on the outside. It wasn't real thick, but it made it, more rigid. And again, with a little bit of sanding, it was a real nice surface for paint. So, I am looking forward to trying this. Taking like building a 6mm thickness, like a forearm or something, and then coating it and seeing how it comes out on the other side, both in terms of strength and surface. So if you don't try it before I do, then I'll let you know how it goes after I try it. All right, back to the table. All right, so there's our centerpiece cut out, and we'll just put a pile of pieces over there. This is the exciting part, cutting out foam. Woo! Actually, it's not that it's unexciting, it's just I've made a number of these, so I could literally cut these out in the dark. All right, so we need a moderate valley cut here. So we're going to cut it in. Actually, I'm sorry, this is a slight mountain cut because it goes inward. Outward creates the valley. All right, so when I say moderate, I'm talking like 30 degrees, not a full 45. Right about a 30-degree angle from center. All right, so there's that piece. All right, we have another one just like it over here, the reverse. Again, a slight, about a 30-degree mount cut. Everybody knows the difference between a mountain and a valley cut, correct? When you put two mountain cuts together, it makes a mountain. or the peak goes upward, like this. All right. When you put two valley cuts together, it makes an inward angle or a valley. That's the difference. I'm sorry, you want that demonstrated? All right, very well. Here's what we do, all right? Actually, let's do this first. All right, so we're going to do mountain cuts. So I'm going to do a cut on the inside, like so, and then I'll flip this around and mountain cut the other side. All right, when you put them together, you get a mountain. See that? So we cut in and in, put them together, you get a mountain. See how that angles up? Now the converse is true. If we want a valley, we cut it so the angle goes outward on both sides, like so. And then when we put these pieces together, we get a valley. See that? And I actually had someone ask me once, well, what if you put a valley and a mountain together? And I said, really? Then you're right back where you started. It's flat. There's no point. unless you want an offset or something like that. Then in that case, it would make sense. But, you know, when you're joining pieces together, typically, that's usually not a terribly useful cut. But, again, that is one example of a mountain and a valley coming together to make an offset. Sometimes people will create offsets by using layering, a thinner piece of foam over top of a bigger piece to create that bump up. Does it make sense? Hopefully it does. Makes sense to me. Alrighty. Okay. Across the top. All right, there's our other side. Now, let's grab these pieces behind me. Ta-da! And cut out those pieces. Okay. Now I feel my knife is starting to drag a little bit. So as I said before, that's when you want to jump out and go ahead and give your knife a little bit of a sharpen. So that way you're not tearing the foam. But rather you're cutting it, making a nice clean slice. Now if you are tearing the foam and it only is limited to the inside, it's not a big deal. But the tearing at times does lead to the outer edge starting to be torn, and then that makes for a ragged edge when you go to glue it together, which obviously affects how your final piece looks. So ultimately, if you want a good looking final piece, you want to keep your blade nice and sharp. All right, now you remember earlier when we did this transition from a vertical cut into an extreme mountain cut? We're just going to turn our blade at an angle as we come around to execute that compound cut. So we're going to start vertical. As we come around the top here, we're going to gently start leaning the blade over, not all at once. And then by the time we get to the end, we're at about a 50, 60 degree angle cut. Same thing here on the end. We want nice extreme cuts. When you're cutting with extreme cuts, I've been doing it a while, so I'm used to it, and I know, you know, I'm not saying I'm I'm immune to mistakes, but keep your hands back a ways, because if this blade slips, you're going to cut right into the end of your finger, and that will not be pretty. All right, so now we're doing the same transition here, but rather than cutting in, we're going to transition out into a valley cut. I'm starting to drag there a little bit, so let's just do a quick sharpen. Okay, so again, vertical, and then gently lay that blade over until you get it all the way like that. And now when I pop this piece out, you'll see what I'm talking about. You see how that angle starts straight. I don't know if you can see that or not. Starts straight and then gradually lays down as you get around the edge, around the other side. Then we have this part here, which we want to be able to glue it together to make an indent or a valley. So we're going to cut this way on this side, and I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to do a reverse mountain cut on this side. Again, being very careful not to pull that blade into your finger. Alright, so what's going to happen now, I'll go ahead and trim this now on the outside, is you're going to wind up with something that looks like this. Alright, but when we glue it together, it'll look like that. It'll buckle in on itself, make a little bit of a dimple, which right now doesn't mean anything, but when we put the final piece together, actually I can show you the final piece, it does this down in front. See that little dimple there? That's basically what we're doing. So. Okay, same thing here. A little bit of a valley cut. Going to do a slight valley on the inside. Actually, you know what? I did that backwards. We want to do a mountain on the inside and a valley on the other side. So we'll retrace this when we do it. I'm actually going to mark this on my template so we know next time what to do. I usually do that, but for some reason, I've always just kind of winged it on this piece. I was thinking I was going the wrong direction, but somewhere I was like, no, we're good, we're good. Alright, there we go. So now, slight mountain on the inside, valley on the outside. There we go. Alright. Back to being productive here. Alright. I think we may be getting to time to change our blade, because this doesn't seem to be holding. No, I'm just going to cut this here and then cut it as a single, smaller piece. It's a little easier to manage. Here we're going to do a slight valley cut on the outside. And again, the reason that we're doing this is to create a flat surface cone on the inner and outer edges. Okay, so now, as I said, if we take this piece and pull it in on itself, we'll actually make it smaller because this is adjustable. You'll see it makes a bit of a cone shape, like I said before, but then the outer edges and the inner edges are flat. I know you can't really tell it by looking at it, but that's what happens. See how it's vertical? Because of that angle. cut that we made. All right. I think we're going to change our blade. It looks like my pen did not mark here, so I'll just freehand that in. Okay, so here's that transition piece again. We're going to start vertical, gradually. Oh, actually we want to go the other way. My bad. Good thing we saw that. I'm going to start with a valley, go into a moderate valley, and then stand the blade up like that. Excellent. Now the other side, extreme valley to a vertical cut. Like so. And then again, we've got our valley cut coming from this side. And our mountain cut from the back side to create our dimple-inducing groove on the front, like so. Which, like I said, will make more sense when we glue it all together. This is the joiner for the back. Brings our sides together. And then we've got extreme valley here. I'm sorry, extreme mountain cut, because it's going inward. And then an extreme valley cut on this side. Okay, there's that. Just a couple more pieces here and we'll be ready to start gluing together. Okay, there's that. And there we go. And then these three pieces here. We've got extreme valley, I'm sorry, mountains on either side. Got an extreme mountain at the bottom. And a flat cut at the top. And this one here, can't really see it. I need to darken these lines up. That should be enough. Got a moderate valley on the outside. Okay. And then a moderate mountain on the inside. There we go. There's that. And we have two circles here, which are very faint. Let me grab this and darken it up a little bit. I'm going to do these flat vertical cuts all the way around. Anybody that's ever traced circles in foam, you know what a joy this is. I found that a combination of moving the blade and the piece, after a while you can get them pretty good. So, not too bad. And one more over here. And also working with a piece that's just roughly a little bit bigger than your circle makes it easier to keep control of it as you spin it around. The important thing is just take your time. Don't get in a hurry. Follow the line that you drew. Keep that blade nailed to the table. And like I said, for the most part, your cut should come out pretty circular. Kind of looks like a Reese's peanut butter cup, doesn't it? It's not. All right. Well, that brings us to the exciting conclusion of tracing and cutting the foam. Good question, Steve. To date, I have not found a circle cutter that could do the job of staying sharp enough to cut through this foam. I'm sure that there's a jig that could be created, but you know what? As I said, if you just practice, I've gotten pretty good at cutting circles. Just practicing. Bruce Lee said, "Don't fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks, but fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." I'm not saying make 10,000 circles, but if you make a couple hundred, you get pretty good at it. All right. At least that's my approach. If somebody finds a circle cutter that will work, by all means, let me know. I may take a look at it, especially if I have to cut a lot of circles. Definitely go a lot quicker. All right. Let's go ahead and start gluing this baby together, shall we? So these are our major components. Right there are the pieces that make up our cog. How about that? Take a picture of them. Boom. All right. Now, I'm going to do one thing that I haven't done yet, and that is I'm going to turn on our fan here for some good air circulation. And I've got another fan I'm going to put up in the window to push these glue fumes outdoors. If you hear a crash, then the stream is over. Okay, we've got good ventilation, so let's break out the glue. Size of circles, they usually vary. There's a smell you never get used to. And yet, love it. Oh, hold on. I'm getting a request for a battery. Give you one of the good ones. All right. So we're going to paint up a few surfaces here with our glue. We got a little bit of humidity, so we'll probably do a primer final business coat. This piece lays in here, and then that other piece goes on top here. Nope, that's the wrong one. No, that was actually the right one. Yes. Tell you what, let's work on one side of this at a time. That's all we really have room for, so let's not complicate things here. And we'll do the center last. Okay, that's for that side over there. We'll do the center pieces last. So there we go. We'll do this. Give them a good coating here, and then we'll let that dry and go ahead and drop some glue in the groove here. Just want to make sure everything is heading the right direction. This is where eventually our hip pods will go after they're created. Here. All right. Now, I could probably go ahead and this is here, but we're going to focus on one side of the build at a time. All right, so that's dried out pretty good. That one's ready to join. Okay, primer coat. Okay, and last but not least, our weird double angled piece here, and the little dimple cut out. All right, let's see how we're looking here. Yep, ready for coat number 2. Put glue somewhere where we don't need to glue something. How about that? Looks like we didn't prime this side, so we'll go ahead and give that a little primer. That's still a little wet, so we'll wait for a second on that. You don't want to put wet glue over wet glue. It doesn't accomplish anything. You want to wait for that first coat to dry and then hit it with your second coat. Good coffee. All right, so we're flying along here. While we wait for this to dry, any questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead and prime these up. Suggestions? knock knock jokes, whatever you want to share. I'm not going to glue these ends because we're actually going to trim these to fit once the circles are glued into the center. So there's no sense in putting up glue on the ends of these until we get them cut to fit. Alright, those are primed. Go ahead and get primer on this one here. There's that. Again, I'm just hitting these all with a primer coat, so when we're actually ready to glue them together, we'll hit it with one more coat before we stick them together. There we go. We'll have one step of the process done. Set that aside over here so it's not touching something that it shouldn't. Cool. Thank you. Actually, I want the glue on this side. So there's that. I think we've got everything at least to the pieces that we are prepping to assemble. Looks like this is ready for its second coat. Let's go ahead and hit that with the second coat. Okay, when that dries, that'll be ready to go. All right, what can we do now? Because they'll be ready to put together as soon as we get the other side together. So let's go ahead and get that set up. Okay, there's that, our piece, that's this one here. Okay, boom, there's that. Now, we're just waiting for this glue to dry so we can stick it all together. Well, I had that one fan on the floor there pointed at me, and now that I moved it up to the window for circulation, it's a little toasty. Just waiting on the glue to dry here, folks. Good time for question and answer. If you have any questions or if you have any answers, by all means. And if you do have answers, remind me what the question was, because I seem to have forgotten that as well. All right. It looks like our stream is still not doing too bad, which is good. Yeah, our stream is sometimes gets a little flaky because our signal, for whatever reason, our internet connection gets a little slow. I see you glue the cod in the abs. How you put it in? What about movement? You know what? The movement, I haven't found it. I've only built an Iron Man suit once that didn't have the abs and the cod attached to each other. I just think it makes for a neater presentation. And as far as movement goes, it doesn't really limit your movement. You can still twist, a certain amount of bending, which, we're not typically doing calisthenics or gymnastics in these suits. So generally does flexibility that I've found. All right, I think we're probably ready to glue this stuff together. So let's go ahead and check it out. Looks like we are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and attach our joiner in the back. A little bit of an indent, as you can see, because that's the way it lines up with the abs when we create that portion. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the bottom. This is our hip pod attachment. All right, as always, make sure your outer seam lines up perfectly. And then push the inside and back of the seam together to complete the bond. If there's any excess glue at this point, you can just use your thumb, rub it off. Okay. The transitions from piece to piece are subtle. You see here we don't have a huge mountain, but we've got just a slight, a slight transition in the panel from one panel to the next. As we add the other pieces, like this one here, which just so happens to be the wrong side, that transition will become more pronounced as this bends forward and becomes the front of our cod. That's the mistake some people make, is that they'll cut their angles too deep because they want to make sure that those panels make a visible transition, when in actuality it's a collection of the whole and not just one individual piece doing the work to make the piece appear how it's supposed to when you're done. But some of these things you don't figure out until you've built a couple of suits, and you're like, you know, what's going on? And then when you do, you're like, oh, I need to be a little more moderate with my cuts. Because here's the good news: you can always cut more off, but you can't typically add more on. So if you find that the transition isn't dramatic enough, then use your heat gun, pull these pieces apart, trim off some extra, and glue it back together. Okay. So now you see this piece here that we did the extreme cuts with, and the transition that we did from vertical to extreme mountain cuts, and this little dimple in front now creates ultimately the angles on the piece that we want, especially again as we bend this forward. Don't do a whole lot of bending until your glue has cured, and while contact cement is an immediate bond, the bond is not at full strength. I found anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. So you can pull and tug on it, and do some things with it, but don't expect to bend it like this, against a seam, and for that seam to hold at 100% strength like you want it to, or you expect it to. Okay, so there's the first side. We know this is going to go in front. Let's see, although we only put one layer of glue on that. So let's go ahead and do the other side. We'll glue the major components together first, and then we'll join them in the center. Lining up our outside or surface seams, edges, and gradually pushing the whole thing together. The ends are a little off here, so we can stretch one side and compress the other to get them to line up. It is foam, so you do have a certain degree of flexibility and malleability that you can take advantage of to create a more perfect alignment on that end. Okay, get our top piece here. Okay, like that. There you go. And then we'll fold this dimple in on itself. Add enough glue in there. So we'll go ahead and drop in more glue. Just back it in there. That's a little too much. Try not to go overboard. And wipe the excess off the outer edge. And I'm just going to push it together to make sure that there's glue on both surfaces. And now we'll let that sit until it's dried. And then we'll push it together and we'll be ready to go. Alright, now let's go ahead and join this on the other side. using that same indent. And now we have this quasi Batman logo. Bet you never knew that. There was actually a Batman logo in the Iron Man Mark IV COD build. I probably told you that before. Alright, so we're going to use this disc here. I'm going to start at this side here, indent probably about 6 millimeters, because that's the size of the trim piece that we're going to be putting in later. Just roll this around, bring that cone. You'll see this cone shape coming into play. Okay, now I told you that we had to trim this to get it to the right size. So now that I know where that is, I'm going to mark it on the outside and the inside. Nice vertical cut. And that's where that will land. We'll go ahead and stick this in here, and then we'll put some glue on that open area there to make sure that it is joined together. Same thing here. Okay. Now, these actually sit in here, so we're going to give these another layer of glue. We've already got our primer coat on there, so let's go ahead and get our business coat on. Okay. And now we are ready to join the front and the center to bring this baby all together. Okay, there's all that. And let's see. Got to run a primer coat on here. Looks like we actually didn't set that up, so we'll go ahead and prime that. We'll come back in a couple minutes to set up the business coat. In the meantime, we're going to head over to the front here. I'm thinking of this. And then a business coat up here. And how's our dimple doing? Is that ready? Let's see if we can get that to stick together now. Oh yeah. There we go. Alright, we'll just let that dry. Put another coat back here, and we should be ready to put it all together. That's a little wet. I think we've got a little too much glue in there. So we'll just wipe it out like that. Give that another second to dry. While we're waiting on it, apply our business coat here to the top. This is always the hardest part, is just waiting for the glue to dry when you've kind of glued ahead of yourself. So we wait. All right, how we doing here? How we doing? Still waiting. It's a little humid today, so the glue is probably just taking a little bit longer to dry. So it's tempting to forge ahead anyway, but the extra couple of minutes that you wait will make all the difference in your frustration level when it comes to actually putting this stuff together, because it will stick and not come apart on you if you wait. So I advise that we wait and only stick together what's actually ready. See, I think I got a little ahead of myself on these pieces here. They're not staying together, which would suggest that the glue wasn't dry enough. Fortunately, all we have to do is just wait for the glue to dry and eventually go back and they will hold. So if it holds enough to get it together, you can move on and then just go back and recompress it. As I said before, the glue doesn't fully cure. I said 12 to 24 hours. It's not that long, but it definitely takes at least a couple hours to get that full bond strength. What if you have to take glue off? Well, here's the cool thing, and I've even done this on glue that's already cured. You hit it with a heat gun, you pull it right apart. Obviously, with glue that's cured, it's going to be a little tougher to get apart. But a heat gun like this, this is a Wagner paint gun, heat gun, Wagner heat gun, whatever. Yeah, and especially like now, if it's wet, if you made a mistake and you need to pull the parts apart, and you just hit it with some heat, and they'll come right apart. But that's intense heat, so you don't have to worry if you go out in the sun or something and your suit's going to fall apart or come unglued. Off the tables, I use this stuff. So this is Goo Gone. I use this to take it off my tables and tools and stuff like that. You definitely don't want to spray this on the foam though, so like if you're trying to take excess glue off of the foam, you're better off just taking rubbing alcohol or something like that, or xylene. Xylene works good, but that stuff's kind of dangerous too. Don't get it on your skin. But xylene will take it off. Just, you know, get a little bit on a rag, use a glove, and wipe it off. Or what I do when I'm gluing, if I've got a little excess, is I'll try and rub it out with my rub it off with my finger, or with a glove. The reason you don't want to use the Goo Gone is because it has an oily residue that will actually stay with the foam, and then the paint won't stick. But if you when this glue is wet, if you just take your finger and rub across it and flatten it out, we'll cover it. In fact, there is a method that I'm going to be trying out here when I get free time, which we'll see when that is, where you actually mix contact cement with xylene, and it creates a rubber, you know, I mean, contact cement is flexible, so it creates like a flexible primer. Get into the pores of the foam and create a great surface for the paint that you apply afterwards, and help with some of the cracking that occurs with an acrylic or enamel paint job. Xylene and contact cement. I have a can of xylene and I have plenty of contact cement. Just haven't had the time to try it yet. But you basically thin it way down. I think the ratio is like 10 to 1 or 20 to 1, and then you just paint it into the foam. So, and then I'd still plasti dip over top of that, and then apply your primer and paint on top of that. Okay, so let's see. We did hit this with another coat back here. It's nice and tacky. Kind of like some of my relatives. Hey, we all have those. Sometimes we're those relatives. All right, let's go ahead and start joining our two halves onto our back end here. Okay. So now it goes from a Batman symbol to more of like a Queensryche symbol. Any of you Queensryche fans out there? All right. If not, that's okay too. So here we come around to the front. All right. First things first, we're going to attach this. Actually, what we're going to do, we're going to join the front piece here with this, with the sides, this little cod front piece here. Like so. All right, so we got this. And now we'll take this piece and put in here. That dimple, there's a lot of pressure in there, a lot of reverse pressure, so it keeps trying to pry it open. And you just keep pushing it together until it stays. All right, and then we'll bring this back piece here to the front and tie it all together. Line the center up. Alright, there we go. A lot of pressure up here, so I won't mess around with this too much until it cures. And then we can kind of pull it back out and shape it how we want. I can shape it a little bit right now, but that is basically our cod. Again, this dimple's got a lot of pressure, so we'll just keep pushing that together until it holds permanently. And if it continues to fight us, then we'll wait and let the glue cure, and then just put another layer of glue on there and make it permanent that way. Alright, so there's our basic cod shape. It's looking pretty good. It's holding together pretty well here, so let's go ahead and grab our hip pods. I'm going to go ahead and put these in. A little bit of an outdent. That's where that goes. And we'll just flip it around here and do the other side. I have a couple of different cameras. They're both Logitech. One is the Brio. That is the overhead view that you're looking, and then my inset face cam is the 930C. I got this about a year ago, so they probably updated their lineup, but they're Logitech USB or USB Type C connector cams. All right, so we've got our hip pods in place, both sides, and actually I think there isn't enough glue in there. Yeah, it's showing that it's sticking when I press it together. I've got little threads here that would indicate there's glue in there. But yes, my cameras are Logitech. Okay, so there we go. A completed Mark IV codpiece. And we're not going to do it today, but we will attach the front ab plate and the sides. And when we're done, when that's all done, this is what we wind up with. So this is the finished painted piece, which becomes the core foundational piece of our Mark IV Iron Man suit. Ready to save the world. Alright, you can see the similarities. So, alrighty. Well, I think this is probably where I leave you. We've been streaming here now for a couple of hours. I need to take a break and then do some other stuff. So, hopefully this has been a fun experience for y'all. Let's see, have we done any weapons? Haven't yet, only because nobody has requested them. I don't have any cosplays or, creations where I use weapons, but yeah, there's a lot of potential subjects out there. Honestly, with the commission work that I do have and I get, keeps me busy enough where I don't have a whole lot of time to explore with new creations. But if someone were to come to me and say, "Hey, I want a rifle from Halo or a blaster from Star Wars or something like that," I'm pretty certain that we could. Actually, I'm definitely certain that we could create it. Yeah. But if I get free time in the future, you give me a subject to to try out. Could definitely work that into the repertoire. We'll end this like we started it, with a sign off by Lord Vader himself. So this has been James with Laughing Dragon Foundries. Actually, I'm sorry, Lord Vader with Laughing Dragon Foundries. Thanks for stopping by. And That's the deal. Pray I do not alter the deal any further. Anyway, James with Laughing Dragon Foundries, thanks for stopping in, checking in. We are still trying to stick to our twice-a-week streaming schedule. Obviously, if life or things get in the way, then we have to do what we have to do. But if not, we'll be back here Thursday night, and at the very latest, hopefully next Saturday. Yeah, so, as always, like, subscribe, follow, share. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And if you want to take a look at our Etsy store, we have these, as well as other cool stuff out there. And if you need something custom, let us know, because obviously we do custom commissions as well. So, again, this is James, Laughing Dragon Foundries. Take care. And as I always like to say, I can find it. Hold on. There it is. This for you, Ryobi guys. Keep your glue hot. Ouch. Keep your glue hot and your hopes high. We'll see you soon.